Today is August 11th, 2022. My name is Rose Hurwitz, and I am speaking with Tina Wasserman today. For today's oral history, we'll be discussing collective trauma that's happened in the Dallas area in the past few years, especially impacting the Jewish community, starting with the October 2019 tornadoes. Tina, there was a tornado that hit the Dallas area on October 20th, 2019. Can you please describe your experience with that tornado?
Oh, yes. We were in the house and we heard the tornado siren, and it's, a lot of times you don't react because, who gets a tornado in Dallas? But we did. And the only interior room that we had was right underneath the air conditioning unit. So we decided not to stay there. So what we did was we closed all the doors to the bedrooms and the bathrooms and sat in the hallway there. Half naive, we did have shoes on. We had our cell phone, but that was about it. We didn't have blankets or pillows or anything like that. And all of a sudden, we heard this sound like mist. It wasn't like rain, it was like mist. And then there was dead silence. And then all of a sudden our ears started to pop. And that lasted about 2-3 minutes. And we heard lots of noise afterwards. And, and then everything died down. And I commented to my husband that the door to that we were sitting near was rattling back and forth. So we opened up the door and saw that the reason it was rattling is that debris from the house that disappeared across the street from us everything had thrown into my daughter's bedroom, and there was glass all over the place and everything, but we were okay. So we were feeling kind of fine about it. Not, shocked, but kind of fine until we tried to get out our front door, which has a little porchy area, enclosed air, not porch, a little, almost like a porte cochere, but it's not. It's just a little area outside our front door. And we literally, in order to get out of our house, had to walk in between the pillar and the house and then walk through the garden and try to get around because there was debris about 5 feet high all around our house. And we go outside and my husband said, look, the house across the street lost their roof. I go, no, Richard, the house across the street is gone. And bottom line is we thought we were pretty lucky, except that we didn't realize that the roof had blown off our house in the main part of our house and over my kitchen. And the reason we didn't notice it is, we spent the night at a friend's house, picked us up. We had to walk with a suitcase around the wires that were on the ground and around the street to St. Michael's. And bottom line is that night it rained a lot. The next day we come to the house and we find 2 feet of insulation, sheetrock, and roof all over our furniture and everything in our house, in the main part of our house. Bizarrely, how things were affected and not. We have this beautiful wooden stainless steel fireplace, wasn't touched, except that half of the chimney was blown off. We had this piece of artwork on our wall that was all held on by pins. Didn't touch it. The roof, the ceiling just kind of missed it. We had very good insurance company, which was fortunate because a lot of the people on my block were fighting their insurance companies for months and months and months. And our insurance company put us in an apartment, and we were there for 4 months. And we opted to have our furniture cleaned and our carpets cleaned rather than renovate, because we had already renovated our house over the years and we liked our house. We didn't need to change it, but it still was pretty traumatic. Although my husband says the thing that really was the coup de grace, the next day after the tornado, we had just bought a little house, this house here, and had just started to think about not to think about renovating. We had an architect and everything. And she called us the next day, and we had given her a very good budget. And she told us the contractor came in $250,000 over. So we said, okay, then we'll deal with that. No more vaulted ceilings, no more this, no more that, and we just, so it was like, okay, so meanwhile, we're fixing two houses at one time, which could have been enough, should have been enough, but then the pandemic hit. And, and the other thing that was very traumatic about the tornado, or very sad, it wasn't traumatic, because we have a saying in our family that Saurus is when time and money can't fix it. And time and money could fix anything that was going wrong. We had our health, we weren't hurt, and we were very grateful for that. But outside, we had planted a tree the year our son was bar mitzvahed, and it was a 30-year-old tree, and it was destroyed. And it really broke our hearts, but I found somebody. I called one person, they recommended somebody else. There was a gentleman that usually sells his wares in Colorado, but he is I don't know, I guess you would call him a wood turner. I mean, he's a craftsman. And he came one day with 3 men, and they took a big chunk of the trunk, and it was very hard to haul it onto his truck. But after a year of whittling it, soaking it, drying it, shaping it, polishing it, we have this magnificent big oval bowl that's stunning. And it sits on the floor by our fireplace. And on the bottom, he wrote, this from the tree to honor Jonathan's bar mitzvah. So it's, it was something very nice and very good came from it. The rest of the year was just as bad, if not worse, but that had more to do with my health. But it was a Dayenu year, and I could say we came up to Massachusetts, and we saw our brand new house, and we were all excited after driving 3 days, watching nobody wear masks in the mid states, in Kansas and Tennessee and Kentucky, and I wound up in the hospital for 2 days with AFib, which went away. I had no problem, but they happened to do a chest x-ray, and they found something in my lung, and I'm not a smoker. And the bottom line was, they said, well, have it checked out when you get home, but they didn't know I was coming home 4 months later, but okay, came home 4 months later, didn't worry about it. Turns out it was stage 1A, which is the lowest stage you can get in lung cancer. And I had part of it removed, and I'm fine. No treatments, no nothing, I'm fine. And so I consider myself a very lucky person, but that was a pretty traumatic year. And our neighbor, and also we were robbed about a month after the tornado, because there were some squatters in one of the houses, and they think that's who it was because they found an old camera, but we think that there was an inside job from the builders, even though they said, oh no, it couldn't possibly, of course they said it couldn't possibly be us, but the bottom line is they stole all my husband's camera equipment, and he had a Hasselblad, and he had a good Canon, and all his lenses and everything. So that was like adding insult to injury. But I didn't, to use the Yiddish word, I didn't dray on it. It happened. It was unfortunate. We were very lucky. Nobody on our block got killed, including the woman who was in the house that got destroyed. She broke her ankle getting out. Other than that, nobody got hurt. So you have to be grateful for that. You have to look at it and say, this happens, once in a lifetime, except it's not once in a lifetime, because a year later, a tornado came through, didn't affect my house, affected my neighbor's yard. She lost a lot of trees. And I heard that there was a couple that had just bought a house that had been destroyed, had been renovated, and then sold to them 3 days before the tornado hit again and destroyed their house. So, that's stress. But this was, and the apartment was nice. It was fun to live in an apartment. They were great. I said, look, I'm a food specialist. I need a Cuisinart. They got me a Cuisinart. I mean, it was, that part was easy. We didn't have to deal with fighting the insurance company. So that was a big help. But that's how that's how I deal with trauma. You assess what's going on and you say, could be worse. It's a children's book like that. It could be worse, and it could have been. So I'm very grateful, and that's it. Except that we had trees planted. We lost a tree that we planted. We planted another tree. Insurance doesn't pay for your trees, but our yard is the most landscaped on our block, because when we bought the house, there was one tree on the property. That was it, and we just made it beautiful, like we did out here too. I love foliage. I love nature, and that's what we did.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I could react to so many things you had said. What street did you say you were living on?
Lavendale. I'm on Lavendale Avenue. I'm on, actually, to this day, if you drive on Royal Lane, actually there's this big monstrosity of a house being built across the street from me. But the corner where one of the houses was destroyed, but the corner house that was totally destroyed, that yard, unless they've started building, that yard is still vacant. So you can literally see my house from Royal Lane.
Wow.
And so we could see the devastation throughout. We were the part of Royal Lane that looked god awful.
Okay. So what did it feel like once you recognized what that devastation actually was for the community, and how can you describe how that looked to you?
Oh, it was demoralizing. It was devastating. I mean, literally for a year. For a year, I had my two next door neighbors that going towards Royal Lane. But other than that, the house next to me had been being renovated for 3 years. It finally just sold, but it was empty. The house next to it was destroyed. It was empty. The house across the street was empty because of damage. The house next to it was damaged. One house wasn't damaged. And then on the other side of the street, on the south side, most of the houses had damage, or people were out and they were renovating. So they were out even longer, which the most traumatic, if you want to use the word traumatic, that's too strong a word. The most annoying thing about it, with all these houses destroyed, the vermin came out. And they discovered a house where there were people living. And I became an expert on getting rid of rats, mice, things like that. Once years ago, I went into a manicurist and I was getting my nails done. And I said, I'm about to tell you something that no Jewish woman in North Dallas will ever tell you. And she said, what? I said, I broke my nail setting a rat trap.
Oh no.
But this one was, I got exterminators involved in this one because I was just beside myself, you know.
Mhm.
Um, especially after having been away, that we were away that summer, and we come back and we see droppings all over the house, and the animals really enjoyed all the soft cushiony parts of my house, like my living room couch, a nice cushion in the.
Mhm.
But it I think what it really represented, because when I talk about it now, it's a laughing matter rather than, oh my God, is it made me feel out of control. And I think that that is the best description of how I think a lot of us felt, but certainly how I felt. I felt out of control. I couldn't control the weather. I couldn't control how fast they fix things. I couldn't control, I mean, you realize that you're a small entity in this world where, frankly, I try to be, to control things, not control things, not that right way, to change things, you know. Um, I said I won't discuss it, and I won't discuss it, but I'm very active in politics. I hate people being hurt. I'm very supportive. I was very supportive. You talk about Katrina, immediately uh, got an email and ran to a motel. And by the time I got to the motel, the entire lobby was filled with donations already. And I'm talking about 45 minutes. And this was from,
Wow.
6 emails that went out, and then they just dispersed. Everybody dispersed it, which is something I'm very proud about, especially being Jewish. It lived up to our tenets of our religion. So, but I'm digressing. But I think that was the thing about that and I didn't have any water problems with the heat. I had a girlfriend, I mean, with the freeze, but I had a girlfriend who spent the night at her daughter's house, came back and found her whole house destroyed because the water pipes had broken on the top floor, and totally destroyed everything in her house. Working on that. So I don't know why that started. Oh, I hit I'm sorry. Oh, must have thought I was talking to Siri.
No problem.
Okay. So it's, I'm probably not, I'm not wringing my hands as much as one would expect, but it was also 3 years ago. And, and frankly, with the pandemic, it's like time has flown by. We don't really, I mean, I sometimes have to ask myself what day of the week it is.
Mhm.
More than once. And that's nothing to do with my age. It has to do with the pandemic, I promise you. But I don't think that's probably as full a story as other people might be able to give you, but it was I think of lack of control and resilience are the words that I would describe my reaction and my husband's reaction to.
Mhm.
Oh, and I lost my car too. That the tree fell on that.
Oh, no.
Oh, that was okay. You know what the most annoying thing is? The most annoying thing is when you keep getting these calls about your warranty has run out, and I have said that car was destroyed 3 years ago. Leave me alone. But they don't anymore.
Yeah.
But again, it wasn't Source.
Mhm.
Time and money fixed it.
What role would you say the Jewish community played in the tornado recovery?
Oh, terrific. I mean, it, first of all, it affected a lot of its congregants.
Mhm.
I think there was a call out, if anybody needed anything, but people were, do you need anything? Do you need me to bring over a meal? How are you doing? People called. I mean, it was, and I honestly can't remember, but I'm sure there was something very organized from Temple Emmanuel, for sure, because it affected a lot of its members, because of in
Mhm.
that location. I mean, it was, I don't know whether you know this, it was the most expensive tornado in the history of Texas.
Wow.
Well, it's because it happened to hit pretty nice neighborhoods.
Mhm.
And our neighborhood wasn't even the nicest. And I know what my insurance company had to pay to get everything, fixed up. There
Mhm.
were a lot of people who lost their houses,
Mhm.
and their houses were multi-million dollar homes. So,
Wow.
yeah. So it was quite an experience. But as I said, all's well that ends well. Neighbors came out immediately. We all checked to make sure everybody was okay. The neighbor across the street was in her 90s, but she had her caregivers there, and her caregivers got her into a closet or whatever, so she was okay. And after that, she lived with her kids in town and passed away about 2 years later. And she was, the neighbor we had, because we're in the same house for 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I never thought I could say that. It's the tornado should have blown away half the papers I have that nobody needs anymore. I always joke. I said the worst thing I could do to my kids is to drop them before I clean out the house, because otherwise they're in trouble. They wouldn't know where to begin. But it's so that was hard, but it was great knowing that everybody was okay. And it was this great feeling. Even my son's best friend, who was living in the house 2 doors down, that was pretty destroyed, they were okay, but he came over right away. He says, "Are you okay?" And I go, "Thank you, yes." But it was a mess. It really was a mess, and it took a while for them to really start cleaning up the street, but they did that pretty fast. They knew they had to, but there was so much debris and so much destruction in our one block area. you know
Mhm. Who was responsible for cleaning up the streets?
the city.
Okay.
Yeah, the city, not us. No, no, not us. The city was responsible. um and insurance companies were responsible for the home and the contents and cars. But
Mhm.
in terms of foliage, that was all the homeowner's responsibility.
Hmm.
And that was what my husband would say was the saddest thing, because our block was built in the 1950s. So we had 70-year-old trees on our block.
Mhm.
They were all gone. As a
Wow.
matter of fact, there's one tree, it might still be there. It looks like out of one of Wes Craven's movies. I mean, it's just the wood, and then it's angled. You expect a crow to sit on top of it and have a full moon behind it. Seriously.
Yeah.
But that was the hardest thing, because then everything was naked.
Mhm.
You literally, we sent pictures to our kids, and they were devastated,
Mhm.
because it didn't look anything like the street. Now it's getting there, because people are back. People have planted small trees. We planted a big tree. We just, as my husband said, I expect to live a long time, but not long enough to have a tree look really big. So I want to get a big tree in. So that's what, we did for our front and our back. But, it is what it is. We were
Mhm.
okay. So I know that that's probably shorter than you expected, and either that or I'm more detailed than, yeah, right off the bat. But if you do have any questions, please ask me.
Yeah. Everything you've been providing is great, but I do have a few more questions. So,
Great,
how far was the apartment you were placed in from
great.
your home?
Right. That was a wonderful thing. We were at Preston and Northwest Highway. And
Okay.
so, because I came back to the house almost every day to see what was going on,
Okay.
and to check on it, and meet with the contractors and, whatever. So that was great. And it was a very nice apartment. And they even asked me, do you want 1 or 2 bedrooms?
Oh,
And at
wow.
first I was going to say, oh, I only want 1. And they go, oh, no, Richard needs someplace to work.
Hmm.
If he's working from home at all, because he does a lot of writing when he's not seeing patients. So
Okay.
they gave us a 2-bedroom.
And was that a complex that you had selected, or was that insurance?
Uh, I gave them a couple of suggestions based on what my friends told me. And they said, well, no, we have a really nice apartment for you here. And it was at the Laurels. And that was absolutely fine. It was fine. I mean, you could walk. It was the weirdest thing. It was the first time we ever treated Dallas like you would New York, where you walked around. I mean, we walked out, we crossed the street, we went to a restaurant. I mean, it was really interesting.
Hmm.
But it was great. And I celebrated Hanukkah there with my friends, and it was. And turns out there were people in a lot of people in our building were there because of the tornado.
Okay.
And on my floor, I met a couple, and now I see her more often, at Temple, because we're on the board together. But she, I recognized her last name, and I asked her if she was related, and she says, oh yeah, that's my mother-in-law. So I mean, I knew the family,
Mhm.
but it was. So it was convenient, and it was nice, and there was no question about what I needed in the apartment, so
Mhm.
they outfitted my kitchen very well,
And
which I
they being the insurance company, or they being the apartment complex?
oh, the insurance company.
Okay.
Yeah,
And they fully furnished, the insurance company furnished it as well?
absolutely, down to the, towels and sheets and, bedspreads and lamps and everything.
Mhm.
Everything was in there. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But again, I lucky. I was lucky, but we had always picked a good insurance company that would protect us in case there was something major. And
Mhm.
so, although afterwards they said, we'll keep you on, but because of the tornado, your new insurance you'll have a $50,000 deductible. So I said, we looked for another insurance company, and we found one that's just as good. But, I mean, it's like, oh yeah, $50,000 means the house has got to fall down again because it's more than a roof,
Oh my
you know?
gosh.
Yeah. So they had to protect themselves, but,
Yeah.
we were paying the right premiums. Next question.
Do you know if your neighbors had similar experiences and that they had to change insurance companies after?
I hope some of them did. Yeah, truthfully, there were 3 houses on our block that were fighting State Farm.
Okay.
You could probably take that part out, but or the State Farm part out. But
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it was the ones that you get what you pay for. If you pay for a high premium, you expect something better, and I got better, but a lot of people got better. I mean, I think sometimes the fighting with the insurance company had to do with they wanted more money. You
Okay.
know, I know that one house wanted more money so that they knew damn well that they were tearing the house down and selling the property, but they
Mm.
wanted as much money as possible. But they could fight it as much as they want because there were 3 lawyers in the family,
Mm.
you know, and somebody else wanted to renovate more and really, really change the house. And they did.
Okay.
But they fought it, for a while.
Okay. Yeah, that was going to be my next question. If you've noticed the neighborhood overall has been improved in the rebuild, or if it's
Oh
more
yeah.
of a
Yes. It
maintenance.
no, it is no, as a matter of fact, I said to my husband, I said, you know, you can tell you can tell the age of houses by the architecture.
Hmm.
You could tell the houses in our neighborhood that were built in the 80s and 90s, they were the more Tudor-like, or the big McMansion type things.
Hmm.
And you can definitely tell the houses that were built in the last 5 or 10 years, but really the last 5 years, because it's all white stucco or
Hmm.
white, so all these white houses on our block, and we have the old Mexican brick.
Hmm.
And I said to Richard, do you think we ought to paint it? Or do you think we ought to do something to it? Because, I mean, our house is one of the largest houses on the street.
Okay.
Well, not anymore, because that one across the street. But it, as people say, when you walk in, from the outside, it looks like a classic ranch,
Hmm.
but you don't see the addition in the back. You don't see the modern interior, so people walk in and they go, oh, it's different.
Hmm.
But as a matter of fact, that many years ago, the Fort Worth Star Telegram did an article called "Love It or Fix," or "Love It or Leave It" type thing,
Hmm.
and it was about my fixing up the house, and
Oh,
to the
wow.
way we wanted to do it, and still keeping the integrity of the neighborhood. Well, now it looks a little different, but our landscaping is contemporary, so it's okay. you know but that's what's changed. I mean, the house next door to me, which he's been renovating for 3 years, and the people who bought it changed a lot from the new renovations, because how when you can see a house that's done visually, it looks good, but then you look at it closely and you realize it's been done cheaply,
Yeah.
you know so but that house sold for $1.4 million. I'm telling you, and nowhere's near the size of ours, but it's contemporary. I mean, you know, and and the houses on our block now, so many of them are over $1 million. I mean, and I'm telling you, this was not a block that, our house didn't even come up to that at that point.
Okay.
So it's changed it. It's changed it for the good.
Okay.
Although, yeah, okay. I won't say anything. It's all lit up. It's all lit
Okay.
up, which my neighbor used to complain about our few lights in our trees that
Hmm.
lit up at night. She called it light. What was it? I don't know. She just didn't like it at all. And now every house is lit up. So ours is delicate by comparison,
Yeah.
but it is. I mean, it was bound to happen. You could see the migration of the renovations,
Hmm.
from the west side of Hillcrest down to the east side of Hillcrest. So it's happening.
Yeah.
Next.
Uh, did you and your husband have any type of tornado plan in place, or like how long did you have to react when you first heard the siren?
We literally were watching television and it said tornado, air in the area, it wasn't even a watch. And I don't know why this particular time we decided to take it seriously. But
Hmm.
I mean, we realized it was serious. We could hear the siren.
Okay.
Some people couldn't. And so we reacted, but we didn't react. But in terms of a plan, no, we didn't have a tornado pack. We didn't have a pillow to cover our heads. We didn't, he pulled two chairs in from my office into the hallway so we weren't sitting on the floor. But other than that, as I said, we just did the best we could, not thinking that anything was ever going to really hit us. And it
Hmm.
did. But it could have been, again, it could have been a lot worse. It was the house across the street that was
Hmm.
totally demolished, because evidently our tornado was bouncing.
Okay.
So it was where it hit,
Wow.
you know.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say on the next street, on our street, but on the other side of St. Jude's, they weren't hit by it, but the corner house was totally destroyed. Go figure.
Yeah.
You know.
So moving forward,
Yeah.
would you say you all have considered having a plan in place, or is it still just an unlikely once in a lifetime event?
And I don't believe in once in a lifetime anything, you know. We have more flashlights.
Okay.
They're more readily available right in our night table drawers, you know. I don't think we've done anything significantly different. I think we know that we will pay attention. I know that where we were was a good place to be, you know. Although the other part of the air conditioning unit was above that hall too, but you know, what are you going to do? Either that or we go into the interior closet. It's an exterior closet, but it's a big closet, and there are no windows, and there's a wine cabinet there. So I guess if we're stuck there for a while, we can at least enjoy ourselves. No, but you're right. We really haven't, and we really should think about, you know, in more detail what we would do. Certainly shoes and a pillow and a blanket or something like that, you know, to just protect us from debris, even if debris is falling and it's not heavy debris, but it's still falling all over you. You know, you can still get cut. So. And
you had said there was debris in your daughter's room. Was she there at the time? No,
she was in college. No, she wasn't even in college. She's out of college.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. But that room had to be a new bed, you know, and which broke my heart because it was an Art Deco burled wood bed and nightstand. But you know, it's but my parents' furniture, which was mahogany, was just slightly scratched, and insurance company paid to have it refinished. So we had that, and so I was glad.
Yeah.
You know, that was more memory. That was a piece of memory as opposed to just a piece of furniture. And, you know.
Did you have any trouble getting in touch with contractors or supplies, or did anyone on your street, or was it
very well? People on my street did. My insurance company had somebody right away. And that those people came out, and I forgot. Oh, I knew what it was. They came out, and they tarped one part of the roof, or they didn't come out right away. And then they tarped one part of the roof, and then they didn't come out for a while. And I called my insurance company, and I said, you know, I don't know who these people are, but they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, you know, in terms of getting started, assessing what they needed to do and all this stuff. And they said, okay. And they immediately called another company, and that company was a joy to work with.
Good.
And they had a lot of houses they were working on.
Wow.
Don't ask me their name because I can't remember.
Was it a local company?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would say they had local offices. I think they might have had more than one, or could have even been a national company, but it was the local. I had one young man who was the son of the owner, and he was the one who was overseeing my project, and he was just wonderful. I could text him, I could call him, I'd say, I'm sorry to bother you, you know, but they did a good job.
Good.
And they had good qualified subs. Because the only main thing that had to be replaced was my kitchen floor. and I had always wanted hardwood in my kitchen floor, and they always told me I couldn't have it because we had done a little extension, and that was cement. And the guy says to me, "Absolutely, we can do that." So I have my
Oh,
hardwood
good.
flooring.
Do you have any memory of first responders, like police or fire, ambulance showing up, or like a
Yes, they came right pretty fast. They were on our street, um, because there were some wires down, we
mm,
were checking on all of that. But in terms of, well, they weren't so great with the first responding after the robbery.
mhm,
I mean, you watch too many shows, you expect certain things to be done. I mean, one of the things that the robbers stole was we had this giant glass car that was had originally been filled with popcorn, but over the years, we were putting coins in it. And it was filled to the top. And my husband, the scientist, figured out by volume how much money was probably in there. And it was close to $1,000. And what the robbers did is they took one of our Toomey suitcases and they dumped all the coins in that and they rolled it away. So I didn't touch the jar. I said, there have got to be fingerprints all over this.
yeah.
Nobody dusted it. Nobody,
Huh.
and I think that is really the case now, that there are so many other crimes being committed that robberies are, you're okay, lady, fine, your insurance
Mhm.
company will take care of it. I mean, they don't say that, but
How did you become aware of the squatters in the neighborhood?
they were in the garage of the house on the next block that had been destroyed.
Mhm.
And we think that wasn't the only house, but we had heard that there were drug addicts in in the neighborhood. And I guess, I don't think I necessarily called the police, but somebody else did. But when, I can't remember if it was one of the neighbors told me that they found in the garage a little Canon camera, one of those original first little,
Yeah.
um, and we had those too. So we figured that that's where everything wound up, because where are they gonna schlep
Mhm.
probably 300 pounds of coins in a
Mhm.
suitcase down the road? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And
Yeah.
not be seen.
Right.
I mean, our neighbor had 3 pallets of roofing, and 1 pallet was on the roof, stolen, because there was nobody in the neighborhood, which was
Mhm.
very scary.
Mhm.
So, but that was probably the longest lasting issue,
Mhm.
was the emptiness of the street until everybody came back. And, and with a lot of lights, it's hopefully, we'll
Mhm.
see.
Was there much uh, hold on, let me frame this for a second.
Hmm.
Was there much concern about looting early on, or were there any forms of communication about how to protect yourself from looting?
Our neighborhood we have been uh, paying for a service collectively. Our neighborhood has been paying for a service. They drive around,
Okay.
and the police were stationing themselves on our block at night,
Mhm.
for, many hours. As a matter of fact, one time I was looking at a car and it was sitting there, and I was just skeptical. And then I realized it probably was an undercover, plainclothes police.
Mm.
But we also had a service that we were paying for people to patrol the area. And then I think that people in the neighborhood started, being very vigilant. You know, if we saw something, we called it in right away,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when they were back. But as I said, our block, there weren't a lot of people back there for a
Yeah.
while.
How long was it until the neighborhood was drivable?
um, oh, it had literally, I would say a day or two. You
Oh,
could
wow.
you could get down our street. Yeah, they removed because they needed to. I mean, they needed to get the trucks. They needed to get the fire trucks if there was a fire, but they needed the renovation trucks, you know, and the garbage trucks,
Mm-hmm.
you know, needed to come. Well, they come through the back alley, but you know, there was a lot of debris on the front that they were picking up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the the I would say the street wasn't cleared of debris. I would say it probably took a month. You know,
Okay.
there was still a lot of trash on the lawns and stuff.
Were there large dumpsters that were provided for the street to use, or was the trash routine the same?
Trash routine was the same. And I guess the big trucks that come around once a month were coming around more often. Again, I wasn't living there,
Right.
so I don't know exactly the timetable.
Okay.
You know, my neighbor might know that.
Yeah. Uh, given you, knock on wood, never have to go through the situation again, but if you did, what would you have done differently, if anything?
Well, other than, you know, pillow, blanket, things like that.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think I would have done anything differently. I don't think there could have been, you know, as I said, you know, we've tried to maintain a good insurance company. You
Mhm.
know, you get what you pay for, but we've tried to do that. Um, I've often thought about, you know, if God forbid there was a fire, what would I want to get out fast? And I think that you know, the thought of losing all the photographs
Mhm.
is hard. So, which is a very good reason to maybe put it on, you know, a thumb drive, you know, getting it all on the computer. Um, which is maybe something you're making me think about doing. So, um, but other than that, for the tornado, for, you know, there's nothing more that we could have done.
Mhm.
I don't think, you know, as I said, it's not like, God forbid, we got hurt,
Mhm.
you know, so I'm sure you'll get different stories from people,
Mhm.
you know, who were more traumatized, you know, and physically affected and things like
Mhm.
that. But it could have been a lot worse. And I'm very grateful, you know. Like my husband always says, if it's a choice between smart and lucky, take lucky every time. So I'll take lucky, although he's pretty smart. But, so
Yeah.
is
Well, I
there,
do want to be mindful of your time. Are there any final thoughts that you have that you want to share?
um, no, I just think that the timing of the tornado right before pandemic started was, you know, made one numb and overwhelmed at the same time, that there was so much going on, you know, in the world. And but I was lucky that I was back in the house when we were really quarantining, you
Oh,
know.
good.
I mean, not quarantining, because knock on wood, we didn't get it yet.
Yeah. Yeah,
I gotta
isolating,
get,
I
I
guess.
gotta get through October. I got too much going on between Temple and my grandniece's bat mitzvah. I can't
Oh,
miss
how
any of it.
exciting.
Yeah. So, but no, I feel like this was almost like a boring interview because it's very straightforward, and there was no shock and awe, as much. But it really was a weird experience having it, the sound. I mean, it wasn't the choo-choo train sound that people
Really?
sing here. It was, but I mean, and I'm telling you, I'm in the woods and I'm at the end of the street, and there are plenty of times where you hear nothing. But that nothing is different than the nothing you heard when you were in the eye of the tornado.
Yeah.
That's what happened,
Yeah.
But so that was interesting. But
Was that the first tornado you had ever been in?
hell yeah.
First and last, right?
I hopefully.
Yeah. We're putting that
I
out
mean,
there.
I can't, I've lived in Dallas over 40 years, but I came from the Northeast, and, hurricanes were the thing that we dealt with. And even then they weren't like the hurricanes of today. But that's a whole other issue. So, yeah. So that's really, I mean, I'm happy to stay on. I'm happy to talk to you. If you have other questions, I'm not in a rush right now, but as I said, it was, it went from the 1 year between the tornado and my recovery was just jam-packed. The tornado took a back seat.
Yeah. Gosh. Well, first of all, need to address that. I'm so glad you have recovered. That's so scary. I can't imagine just the
And I wasn't a smoker. My
yeah,
family was.
just the shock of learning that is
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I can't imagine.
That's all right. It's it's all right because it's all right.
Right.
And again, it isn't source.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's the approach to things. Actually, it sounds very similar, like the extension of my other interview for the archives. It's like, what has happened? My family calls me Timex Tina because I take a licking and I keep on ticking.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So my niece made me a t-shirt that says that. But and then the kids found me an old Timex that still works on a chain. So
oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So cute.
Yeah. So, it's better than calling me Tornado Tina because there's a lot of problems. So, that's my approach to life.
Yeah.
You deal with it as you have to deal with it. And, it was, other than the vermin, I'm fine.
Yeah. Does your husband share the same outlook?
I think so. He compartmentalizes and we were okay. And, as I said, he's the one that coined the phrase of what the definition of source is like in our family. And that's, it doesn't mean that you always have the money to fix something, but if it's just that and you have your health, that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
So we were unscathed, freaked out, but unscathed. And it was, I think the warmest feeling I had was coming out onto the street, barely, literally groveling because I wasn't crawling, but just getting out amongst all the debris, all the branches, all the trees, all the everything, and having all the neighbors come onto the street and say, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" That to me was the greatest. I mean, it was the counterpoint to the tragedy. It's just, it's that the fact that we were all okay.
Yeah.
So, and the fact that we all came out and cared, you know,
Mhm.
that's great.
Mhm. How often had you socialized with the neighbors?
That's a very good question because the answer is rarely.
Yeah.
Um, I the elderly couple, Dr. Newsom and his wife, were they were the original house on the block.
Okay.
And they lived across the street from me, and she was a good cook, and that's my profession. So we would often exchange recipes, or I bring something over to her to taste, or whatever. My next door neighbor I've always been close to, and she's wonderful. She watches my house like a hawk, and even was worried about the second tree. We had to pump it to make sure the tree didn't rot from all the water underground, because they call it hillcrest for a reason. It goes down after the hill. And so we're close that way, but we haven't socialized, gone out to dinner or anything like that with the crowd. We were very good friends with somebody who lived 2 doors down because her son and my son were good friends. So I think we done family meals together, and things like that. But my kids are all grown, so
Mhm.
they're and her kids are grown, and then the house is gone, and it's a nice house. But we made it an effort to meet the neighbor there, and I guess it must have been Valentine's Day. I made heart cookies and I delivered them to every house on the block,
Oh, that's sweet.
you know, just to say, hey, we're here,
Mhm.
you know. And when I see people, I saw the people who were building the house across the street. They were watching the house being demolished. So I went up to the car and I said hello, and I got a chance to meet them, and it's good.
Mhm.
It's good, and and the block's changing. It's really a more of diversity,
Okay.
but there are 4 Jewish families on our block, and
Oh,
they're
wow.
only and there are uh, only 12 houses on the block.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
yeah,
So it is still a strong Jewish presence
yeah,
on your street in the neighborhood.
yeah. We put our menorahs in the window, and everybody else we eye their Christmas trees and go, oh, how pretty.
Oh.
So
Do you have everyone's phone number on your street?
yeah, we have there's a neighborhood um organization, and they print out a book of everybody in our neighborhood, you
Oh,
know, and their addresses and their phone numbers and their email addresses, and then it goes by block. So there's 1 is alphabetical, and then 2 it's by block. So
okay.
I have everything. Now, where do I have it? I think I know where it is in my kitchen desk, but you know, you can't guarantee. As
Right.
long as there's no dead body in it, it's okay. God. But yeah, no, so we do stay in touch. And I think it awakened us to the fact that you do need to know
Mhm.
who's on the block, and to care for them, and to watch out. But now that there's been a lot of people moving in, I hate to admit this, but I'm the running neck and neck with our end of the block is the old end of the block, the old people. We're now the Newsoms. But that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
I feel younger than I am.
Yeah. Age is just a number, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Tell it, but tell it to your back and your knees.
Right.
My husband always says if he wakes up in the morning and nothing hurts, he knows he's dead.
Oh, no.
So anyway, that's
Yeah.
that's me, and that's the situation, and that's the tornado, and you know, I'm more concerned about COVID right now,
Okay.
and I guess I have to worry about monkeypox now too. But I mean, I don't even know whether I'm going to go to services in person this year. And
Okay.
every year, and this is the most disappointing thing because this is the first year I'm back for
Hmm.
Rosh Hashanah.
Okay.
Every year I used to have 100 people to my house for Rosh Hashanah, including the entire clergy. And it was
Wow.
after Tashlich, so that they could come in their khakis and their short, just relaxed, and nobody was allowed to talk about temple politics, although our temple seems to have very little politics. So that's, I mean, really that, that everybody's concerned about. And I just can't do it. I can't take a chance. I mean, it's no September 28th. I can't imagine that it's going to cool down right away. People are going to be in the house jammed like they always are, because they always stay in the house, even though I put tables and decorate outside. And I can't take a chance. I can't miss the functions that I'm doing
Hmm.
for the bat mitzvah. So
Hmm. Do your children live nearby?
no, that's what they call the intellectual drain on Texas. Other than the families that have been here forever,
Hmm.
most of our kids, I mean, I have one in LA and one in Brooklyn.
Oh, wow. Complete opposite ends.
Yeah. And where do they want to spend Thanksgiving? Up here. They don't even care about coming back to Dallas.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm. And, and I get it. And they were both born in Dallas.
Okay.
So, and they have some school friends, but most of them have moved away too.
Hmm. Did you
So,
get to see them very often during ahead of
COVID.
the pandemic? Yes.
Mm-mm. Um, my daughter, okay, when I had this AFib, she took 5 weeks off because her work she can do on the computer, at home. She's in casting, but she
Okay.
can do a lot of that on the computer. She came, but for 2 weeks, she stayed in a motel here
Oh.
and only came to, I'm in my enclosed, I have a screened in porch here.
Hmm.
And she would come through the back entrance to the screened in porch, sit 6 feet away from me and then finally, I said, look, I'll designate one bathroom for you. Nobody will use it. You can walk in the house and use it, because she didn't want to do anything that was going to bring any germ into, the house,
Hmm.
even though she was tested negative.
Oh.
And then she stayed for 4 more weeks.
Oh.
Yeah. So I got a chance to see her a lot because of that.
Yeah.
Whether it was the pandemic or it was that incident, my family, my children we have a call every Sunday on Zoom.
Oh,
So we see each other.
that's
And
amazing.
that was and I was never one of these parents that said you got to call on Sunday, or whatever. So
Hmm.
it could easily be 2-3 weeks before I spoke to my son.
Hmm.
I let him do his thing.
Yeah.
But it's they realized it was important, and that way we could stay in touch. And then the kids came up from Brooklyn, and they tested. I mean, even recently they were all up here, and they all tested before they came.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, we're just they're being very careful for me, because part of my lung was removed.
Right.
But I'm fine.
Good.
I just don't want to get tired sick,
Hmm.
the kind that you get, but
Yeah.
I can't afford to.
Hmm.
There's too much going. And after that, whatever. But
Yeah.
after that, I'm hightailing it up here. I mean, I'm concerned about and we're coming home in Labor Day, and I'm concerned about the level of COVID in Dallas.
Hmm.
'Cause
How do you learn about the prevalence of COVID? Do you watch the
I
news?
have the New York Times COVID coronavirus watch,
Okay.
and so I look in Berkshire County, and I look in New York, and I look in Dallas.
Mhm.
You know, so I see what's going on, and I hear most of my bridge group. I have with this group of women. We've been playing bridge for 16 years now,
Oh, wow.
and they one, two, three, four of them have had COVID even after two boosters.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to coming back.
Yeah.
That and the heat.
Right. Honestly.
I mean, I'm sitting out here in like 76-degree weather with the breeze, you know.
Yeah.
It
That
was
sounds
95.
lovely.
Yeah, it was 95 the other day, and I go, "Oh my God, it's hot!" And I was so afraid I was feeling hot, and it was 80, but it
Mm.
was 95. So I said, "Okay, good.
Justified.
I'm getting, yeah, I'm getting used to it, you know." But you know, that's Dallas.
Mhm.
Even when it's not 100, I remember when the kids were little, you had a wet rag to wipe down their car seat because otherwise they burn their tushies.
Mhm.
Mhm. So anyway, we digress, and you have something else to do. So
Oh,
if you have other questions, I'm happy to spend time, but if not,